Who are the world's most interesting people? And what fascinating, groundbreaking, incredible things can they teach us? In this new series, I leave our Science of People lab to interview my favorite authors, experts, and celebrities for them to share their best people hacks, social skills, and stories. And let me tell you, they have some juicy tips. This is a new series I'm calling The World's Most Interesting People. Hello, YouTube friends. I am so excited today. I have my friend Chase Jarvis on the show. Yes,
Hi.
I'm so happy you're finally here.
I wish our arms were longer.
Arm hug. I feel like the producers would be mad if we got
That's
up and
right, that's right.
hug right now.
Like, no, I get it.
Later.
I get it.
Okay, first I gotta brag about you for a second.
Oh,
okay.
geez.
Are you ready? You guys all know
No,
Chase.
Stop.
Tell me more. Here we go. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Bring
Chase
it.
Jarvis is an award-winning artist, entrepreneur, and one of the most influential photographers of the past decade. He has created campaigns for Apple, Nike, Red Bull. He earned an Emmy nomination for his documentary Portrait of a City. He's also the founder of Creative Live, whoop whoop, where more than 10 million students learn photography, video design, music, body language, business, people skills, you know. Mm-hmm. He's been a guest at the Obama White House, the United Nations, the Library of Congress, 10 Downing Street, and Buckingham Palace. And he is the author of... I'm going to ask you about that in a second. Okay. Get ready.
Okay.
He's also the author of Creative Calling. This book so needed to be in my life. It so needs to be in your life. I am so honored to have this here and to talk about it. We're going to talk about being creative, finding your calling. But first, I have to ask you, which was your favorite? Buckingham Palace, 10 Downing Street, the White House, or the UN? Okay. Go ahead, tell me.
All right, I'm going to say it was pretty awesome to be at a small table with the Duke of York talking about entrepreneurship at Buckingham Palace and say, can I use the bathroom? And they're like, yeah, it's around the corner. And around the corner is like a hallway that's 40 feet wide and 600 feet long. And on my way to the bathroom, halfway there, someone offered me a drink.
No!
And I said...
Was it someone with a tray like this?
No, it was someone that had a cart. And I said, can I have a gin and tonic?
No.
Yes. How crazy. This is
on
true.
The way to the bathroom?
Yes.
You know what's really ridiculous?
So I sipped a gin and tonic in Buckingham Palace, like, just, okay, I guess I go to the bathroom like this.
Did you take it to the bathroom?
I did.
So what's crazy, you're not going to believe me. You're not going to believe me, you two friends. I actually had the question where I was going to ask you which had the best bathrooms. So it's really weird that you already told me that. Was Buckingham House the best bathrooms?
No,
it
wasn't.
Way. It's too old, right?
It is. It's too old.
White House?
It wasn't. I would say, actually, the White House bathrooms are not that awesome either.
United Nations? 10 Downing Street?
No, United Nations feels more like
my
a
house?
hotel.
You've been to my house?
I have been. I enjoyed your bathroom very much. I was going to say I was picturing it, but I'm actually not picturing it. I forgot what
That's okay. But we did have popsicles and wine on my deck, and you did go to the bathroom, and I think I had the best bathrooms. I'm just going to answer that for you.
Fair, thank you. And I do think very fondly of that, and I did enjoy that white wine. It's delicious. I loved our conversation, too.
Oregon white wine.
That's right.
So I don't have any wine today, but we are drinking and feasting off of creativity.
Boom.
So I want you to tell me about creativity is one of those interesting things because people often say, I'm either a creative or I'm not a creative. And that drives me crazy because I feel like that label minimizes you so much. Did you have a moment where you realized that you were a creative?
Can I take you back?
Oh, take me back.
I'm going to take you back to the second grade.
We should have like a sepia filter.
Second grade, Miss Kelly.
Okay.
And I had just made, in the summer before second grade, my first film. It was called The Sons of Zorro. We
like
made
Zorro?
props like Zorro, and we had masks, and we scripted it, and we washed cars in order to make enough money to buy film. And then we asked my friend's brother to film it, and we actually made money on the production, screened it, yes.
You screened it?
Yep, screened it in the neighborhood, sold candy, made money. More than most films. And so I go into second grade and I'm like, I have a comic strip that I'm releasing every week with my character named Clyde. I'm performing magic. I have a little stand-up act. And I'm just normal second grader. I think second graders, if you look back in all of your second grades, you're like, this is kind of how second grade is. There's just a lot of...
You try everything.
And then fast forward just a few weeks to the first parent-teacher conference. And there was also an ice cream social going so the families could be there. And I overhear Miss Kelly tell my mom, Chase is so much better at sports than he is at art. Yeah. And
oh, my heart just broke for you.
But Miss Kelly, she's not trying to be mean. She's trying to steer me in a direction that she thinks I will excel, which is what everyone in our lives does.
Yeah.
And if you look back and connect some dots, you realize, wait a minute, I was told what I was good at and what I was not good at. I was labeled creative or not.
Right.
And that is a thing that is in all of our childhoods. And I've come to find out that, wow, that's a pretty big thing to either label or not label. Mm-hmm. But here's the deal. Everything in life is about experience, right? You try it, you taste it, you test it, you experiment with it. Creativity is no different. Let's think about, for example, if you have an able-bodied child and on the 26th time it falls down, you're like, guess my kid's not a walker. You pick it up, you throw it over your shoulder, and you're going to carry it everywhere for the rest of its life. Not true.
Right.
Why do we do that with so many other things?
It's
like,
true.
I've tried. So take my second grade me.
Yeah.
Feeling, and I ran, okay. And I don't remember at all being traumatized. It wasn't like,
that wasn't like a devastating thing for you.
No, it was like, okay, sports
guess I'm more
totally,
sporty.
Boom. And it served me well for however many years.
Yeah.
Until traumatic moment, fast forward.
Before you fast forward, so soccer scholarship.
Yep.
Take me through a little bit of those steps.
Sure.
The windy path.
I fully embraced my identity as an artist. I got curious about creativity again when I sort of really got into skateboarding. Loved it. Punk rock, spray paint, physically expressing yourself in really creative ways. I started to see this as like, wait a minute, it's like, where was my identity? And I was okay. I could couch my identity in sports because it was still very physical and as how I identified. So as Miss Kelly was predicted, I went to college on a soccer scholarship, played for the Olympic development team, had a chance to continue to play pro, decided not to. Ultimately, fast forward to my college graduation.
Okay.
2 days before.
Okay.
Grandfather drops dead of a heart attack. Horrible. Complete, nothing on the horizon that told us this was going to happen. Now, my grandfather had been a hobbyist photographer, and he had, through all those escapades, he and my father had been taking pictures of me and my friends. And I was always curious about photography and looked and like, oh, wow, okay, this is really interesting. Not because it was of me, because this is a moment. This will never happen again. Fast forward to his passing, I'm willed his cameras. And
which was meant to be.
Which in a moment, my entire childhood, I reverted back to that moment that I had completely forgotten because I just embraced the thing that I was coached to do, which we all do. And I was like, I've really been sort of denying this. And so I embraced a backpacking trip across Europe with a camera from my grandpa in my hand and with the goal of sort of reconnecting to that part of myself that I had unknowingly, now knowingly, sort of been pushed aside. And I think that's the thing about creativity, to go back to your question, is we are labeled early in life. I'm creative, I'm not creative. And what I want people to do, and one of the reasons I wrote the book, is I want you to align around three things. One, every person is creative. Ask any first grade classroom, who wants to come to the front of the room and draw me a picture? How many hands go up?
Everyone.
All of them.
Yes.
Clamoring on their desk.
That's true.
It's totally true. Ask the same of a 6th grade class and a 12th grade class. You start to realize this is something we train out of us.
Yeah.
So if you believe everyone's creative, and then if you can understand, as I'm here to tell you through science, that creativity is a habit, it's not a skill. It's a process, not an end product. I liken it to a muscle. Like anything, you use it more, you build it. It gets stronger. And if you believe, one, everyone's creative, you believe that you can get better at being creative, you can get stronger. Then you start to look at, okay, well, if I do some creative acts on a regular basis, creativity, let's draw a big circle around it, making a meal, raising a family, not just art.
Yeah.
It's all creative. It's in these small daily ways where you actually realize that you have agency over your life. That's creativity as well. What you make for dinner and you play as the guitar and you design a YouTube video.
Yeah.
It's and living your life and deciding what you want to do, how you want to spend it, who you want to be, what you want to become. It's just creativity at a different scale. And doing this helps this.
So I want to dive into, and I want to call out something for everyone watching. I want you to just think for a moment, and if you have to pause this for a second, that's okay. What label have you been given? I would say at 5, at 10, at 15, at 20, at 25. What label have you been given that you liked, that fit? And what did that mean that you weren't? So I think what happens is we might get a label like athletic or smart. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not creative, but it implies that that's where you should double down.
Yes.
Right? You were told he's very good at sports, which meant spend less time on creative,
Yep.
spend less time on other pursuits. So I want you to just think about what labels were you given and what did that imply that you shouldn't have time for? And is that still true? I think the is that still true test is the best test we can give ourselves.
It's so powerful. I'm glad you put that lens on it. And it just comes to bear that when you look at that, when you unpack that, wait a minute, these labels, whether I was even old enough to acknowledge them or know what they meant or had implications that were bigger than just that moment, they end up sticking.
They stick.
And to me, that is also very, let's look, was Ms. Kelly intentionally trying to, get me to deny my creativity and therefore my ability to craft the life that I want? Clearly not.
Right.
She thought she was helping me. And you know what? The same is true for everybody who gives you advice. Your parents, your spouse, your loved ones. No one's out there. There's no evil puppeteer trying to make your life not awesome.
Right.
They're trying to tell you what they want you to do because they need to know what's safe for them, and they want you to know that, and they want you to live that. And it just so happens that when this information comes from people that we love and that we care about and we respect and admire, it has a profound effect on us. And the courage that I'm asking you to do is to, the book is called Creative Calling. It's called creative because I've drawn a very big circle around creativity. It's not just art.
Right.
So if you're like, oh, I'm not really a ceramist, I don't
I'm not going to do pottery.
I want you to think that you're creative, even if you just suspend what you've been told as a college accounting major.
I actually want to ask you specifically, I loved your definition of creative or your definition of creative.
Sure.
What is creative?
Creativity is when you take any two things that used to not go together, either 2 minutes or 2 seconds or 2 years or 10 years ago, and you put them together in a new and useful way.
That's it.
That's it.
When
and
you take two
or more, yeah.
two or more different things or unrelated things and you put them together.
In new and ideally useful ways. So what you start to understand, if you can use that, is like this idea that creativity means that you need to smoke the cigarette and wear the beret and move to Paris.
And speak in that accent for the entire rest of the video.
Creativity is not about changing your friends, moving to Paris, betting it all, walking away from anything.
Thank you.
It is just a richness of life that you realize that you are a creating machine. You're constantly making choices how to get here today. I made all kinds of choices. I put this car on this road and took a right.
Yeah.
And because I could have taken a left, taken a left. The point is I've drawn a large circle around creativity because I think it's A, the most true, and B, it's incredibly useful if you start to look at yourself as having agency over your moments. And what is a bunch of moments becomes a week, and a bunch of weeks become a year, becomes a life.
And if we don't take those moments, they just keep rolling.
For sure.
And so I think that creativity is one of those things where, or anything creative at all, is usually the first thing to go. So I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but I feel like my to-do list isn't creative. Now I know that's
For
not
sure.
actually that you reframe a to-do list. Like my to-do list isn't creative. I just have to produce. I have to get it done. I have too many things to do. I have to work out. That's not creative either. I have to make dinner for my daughter. That's not creative at all. But what your book showed me is actually creativity is not a venture away from your to-do list, right? So it's not like make a painting or have a creative hour.
Totally.
That's actually the way that I was thinking about creativity. I don't know if anyone else feels this way.
Yeah.
But actually, creativity could be infused in every item in your to-do list. So what I want you to think about here is take a look at your to-do list right now. Like literally take it out, open it up on your task list. And I want you to see, is there any creative aspect to any of your tasks? That is kind of what you taught me how to do. And you also said earlier about this is a habit.
Yep.
It's not, what did you say? It's not a skill. It's a habit. So what are some small habits someone could do to infuse creativity into their to-do list?
It's very much about awareness. Like you can do anything with a little bit of zhuzh.
Tell me a zhuzh.
Like if you decide there's a meal that you always cook.
Yeah.
And
I'll tell you what I always cook.
The go-to.
Chickpea pasta with ground turkey and pasta sauce.
Great. How are you going to change it today? What's one thing?
I'm going to add burrata.
There you go. You're going to add some slices of burrata. And your husband is going to say, wow, this is amazing.
He would.
And he did. He would. And All you did was you changed it up in a little bit. In a
Yeah.
novel way, you put something else in there that you normally don't.
I took two things I don't normally do and I put them together.
And think about all of those neural pathways that are just habits that we get in.
Yeah.
And then think about when you step out of those neural pathways just for a second, or you drive a different way home from work, or what does life feel like?
Yeah.
Just a little bit richer, just a little bit more interesting. And I'm not saying you should drive 100 different ways every
for
day.
sure.
I'm saying that this is a faculty, this is a habit that is available to you at any time. And it is a way to make life interesting and rich. And here's the catch, though. When you start to think about, I want to have a career, or I want to change the way that where I live, or why I pursue one thing and not another thing, what happens? All sorts of outside inputs. So there's this skill that we need to develop, and I talk a lot about it in the book, and it is, you can couch it in whatever you want. Let's just couch it for this purpose of this conversation in intuition. The answers to all your things are not out there, right? You've got parents and your boss and your career counselor and your spouse. All these inputs, they all mean well. They're people that love you deeply. And what is interesting is we need to develop a muscle that is around listening to what's in here rather than what's out there. And that is a very hard thing to do. But I advocate that we all have that inner voice. And it's never saying, Vanessa, go ahead and come over here and do this, and then do this, and then do this, get your thing done, and then your life is going to be good, you're happily ever after.
Yeah.
It's like, I think you should study behavioral science. And you're like, Mom told me I needed to be an accountant. And you start to listen. So these things are a whisper. They're never clear.
Oh, wait. We have to pause right there.
Sure.
These things are a whisper. I think the older we get, the quieter those voices become.
Yes, and that is that neurology that we condition to just be in the same path. And so if you change up your pasta or the sauce or the cheese,
Just gives you a zhuzh.
it's a little zhuzh.
It's also like listening to whispers. So what I would say here is a really weird, this is one of the weirdest YouTube challenges I've ever given, but it's, what is whispering to you? Right? Like, have you ever done something in your day-to-day or your week-to-week and you're like, oh, I had like the inclination to try this crazy thing, or I had a whisper of a thought of an idea and I really want to try it. That's, I think, the basis of finding your creative calling. And again, it doesn't have to mean you have to move to Paris.
For sure, at all.
At all.
Yeah, in fact, don't.
Yeah,
I love it. It's nice. Vacation.
It's expensive,
there.
though. It's really expensive.
You should vacation.
And you can't understand anyone. I love Paris. I love Paris for all my Parisian viewers. Yeah, it doesn't mean you have to reroute your life.
No.
It just means listening to whisper, I think, is scary because we're afraid that it's going to challenge a truth.
What's the first voice that you hear after you listen to that whisper when you actually hear it? Don't do that. Grandma said, That's
crazy.
Right. And I'm always curious, like, what are you supposed to do besides pursue creativity? Like, follow the stock market? Like, it's never really clear what we're supposed to do.
Be productive.
It's just, it's very clear that pursuing creativity is naive or short-sighted, and what I'm here to say is we are creating machines. Pursuing your creativity is literally the most practical thing you can do because there's nothing that you do that doesn't have creativity as a central component to it.
I would say creativity and people skills are probably the two things that have the most flexibility and versatility.
Yeah.
No matter what you do, whether you're a graphic designer or a painter or a CEO or a manager or a garbage truck driver, a little bit of creativity is going to help you be better at your work. And I think that's kind of the bigger takeaway here that creativity is not necessarily an extra or a fun thing.
No.
It's actually an essential part of who we are.
It is. And what's cool about it is when you start to recognize it as such and you can start to play with it. As you said, like, what are some things in your life that you can do? Whether it's, the cheese example.
Burrata.
Sure. You start to infuse cheese in everything. No. But it starts to... It unlocks something and helps you understand that these are the same muscles. That what I'm using to choose burrata over just the same old standard is when I come to make a decision in life, I'm going to be more attuned to what is possible rather than what have I programmed myself to do. And remember, our programming is pretty powerful because we get it from all these outside forces, and sometimes it can be powerful in not so awesome ways.
Yeah.
So by staying nimble, staying creative in the capital C sense of the word, not just as an artiste, in the capital C, this awareness and this connectedness to who you are and what's true for you on the inside, you start to listen to this stuff. It becomes wildly practical. And it starts to be able to, like, the lives that you see on the internet and television, or even if it's your neighbor who lives in amazing integrity and they're incredibly inspiring, that life, not accidental. It's designed. They chose that intentionally. I want to live like this. The Rock, he worked super hard to be an actor because he saw himself in that role and decided, I'm going to design my life, i.e. move to LA, i.e. take acting lessons, i.e. do all these things. And what is that if it's not an amazingly creative act that took years of vision?
And everyone can do that.
It's available to you right now. That's the cool thing. It just so happens that baking a cake and making a, writing code and all these things, they do help you see that. So I do want you to develop a daily practice, and that's one of the reasons that it doesn't have to be hard. It can take 2 minutes, even if it's morning pages or taking a photo. When you take a picture of your daughter with your iPhone, if you just thought about it as a creative act, even for a moment,
that flexes that muscle.
That's enough. It's intention. That's the primary mover behind it.
So I want to end on a couple rapid fire questions, if that's okay. They're really easy. There's no wrong answer. Okay. Who is your creative muse?
My wife, Kate.
What is your favorite book on creativity?
Wow.
I know. You can't say your own because that's pretty damn good.
Big Magic from Liz Gilbert.
Oh, God, yes. That's such a good book.
I'm good at this. Keep it going.
Okay. Should creativity be a solo path or a team path?
Nothing happens solo. Personal development doesn't even happen solo.
What's your favorite color?
Favorite color is black.
I knew you were going to say that. He made fun of us for our white set, so that's because Chase's set is all black, which is true. And it also scuffs left and stains left, but it doesn't look so...
It's true, it's crisp.
So crisp and so clean.
Like your book cover.
Like my book is crisp.
I know.
Clean, we're good.
There we go.
Okay, last question is, what is your most creative time of day?
Morning.
Always.
I protect it with everything in my power. It's and whatever your time is, I think finding a way to craft some space around it. And if you have a mortgage and kids and a job and all these things that we all have, you're telling yourself a story that you can't protect that time. Yeah. You can, and you won't until it hurts bad enough. And I'm telling you that creativity is a vehicle out of your pain. If it's like mild pain, like, oh man, I wish I was fill in the blank, or if it's real pain, it can help.
Creativity is the way out. I hope that this video gives you a little bit of creative courage. I hope it got you thinking about something differently in your life, that maybe you already are creative. All you have to do is think about it in a different way. And I hope that it will make you think about maybe taking a creative leap out there, even if it's a really small one.
Start small.
Start really small.
Super small.
And by the way, you're watching this video, which I already think is an act of creativity because that's something different to do with your time and your lunch break. And I thank you for that. I thank you for being on this video.
Thank you for having me. I love your show so much. Yes.
A hand tug. I love you all, and thanks so much for watching. Be sure to get Creative Calling, a bunch of links in the description below.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Hey, I want to tell you one more thing. You are amazing. The question is, do you know how to share it? I'd love to help. I save my very best tips for my insider subscribers. Subscribe for free at scienceofpeople.com. I know your inbox is sacred, so I promise to send you only emails you will love.